の鼓動が消えかかるそれがオレンジャー熱い血流れる鋼のマシン
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 21 for Your Eyes O-Ranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Choriki Sentai O-Ranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Doing pretty well, man. I'm well rested.
Nice.
Yeah, which is a real rarity for me, which is pretty cool.
We actually had some nice warm days this week.
Yeah, they're gone now.
Oh yeah,
now
they're way gone. It might
supposed
snow
to
tomorrow.
Snow a little bit tomorrow, and April the 16th. Just what?
But we did definitely have a couple of nice days, which kind of reset my internal emotional clock on that.
Yeah, right. Yes, if you've got a little bit of respite, you can get through a lot more cold weather. But I would really like it to be done now, though.
Oh, sure,
that
absolutely.
Would be cool.
I was also running into a weird thing where since it was still cold, I kept forgetting that taxes were due.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which
yes.
By the way, I think this episode is dropping on tax day. If you haven't done it yet, you are probably a lot like me, but you should get them done.
Yeah, you should definitely do your taxes. That is the thing.
I just did mine last night. Anyway, but let's talk about literally anything else, because that is the worst subject in the entire world. Dave, today we are going to be watching episode 21 called The Storm Calling Kendama. But before we get into that, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. And would you like to know what the first star of the week is?
Sure, Matt.
Oh, I'm glad, because I have it sort of written down here, and it would have been weird if I had to skip it, because then we would only have 4 stars this week.
Yeah, no. Well, actually, I forgot that you were going to talk about the first star, and I had like a half star that I was going to like throw in there, actually about taxes. Check this out. Ready?
Go for it.
Life pro tip. This is an actual life pro tip. If you can, like if your monthly finances will allow for this, just set your withholdings higher than you need to, and then when you do your taxes, you get money back. If you do that, are you making an interest-free loan to the government? Yes, you are. However, it does make tax season, something to look forward to instead of dread. So, there you go.
I can see it. It's sort of like a more high-level version of just hiding a $20 bill in your winter coat.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Like, then winter comes around, you're like, oh, it's cold, I gotta put this coat on. But there's $20, so...
Yeah.
It takes the sting out of it. So anyways, Matt, what is our first star of the week?
Dave, first star of the week is I went to a music concert.
Oh, fun.
I saw a band live, which if you know me much at all, you will know that I am not a guy who goes out to see concerts.
Yeah, no, nor am I. It's just not a... I don't know. It was just... never a thing I got into?
Well, the thing is, I only like 5 bands, and 3 of them are the Beatles. So, there's not a lot of reason for me to go out to shows. But the Mountain Goats were coming through Cleveland, and that is, one of the other 2 bands. So, I went to go see them, and my dude, I had never seen them live before. If you were a fan of them, and you were wondering if they are very good live, the answer is yes. It is exactly what you want it to be, and it was great.
Nice.
I kind of don't have a lot of jokes about it. It was a weird night because I kept running into people I hadn't seen in 5 years. And I think it's partially just because the concert was at the Beachland Ballroom, which is on the other side of town from me. But on the
is it over on this? Is it over on the east side of town?
Yeah, I mean it's
I never go.
Yeah,
I mean I don't go to concerts, so I don't know.
Sure,
but
yeah, it's on the east side. But I ran into not only someone with whom I used to work when I worked at Borders, but also one of our regular customers from that same Borders. And, the place that, the Borders was in Solon. The Beachland is not in Solon. It's a sort of a drive from there, too. So running into 2 people from the same place that I hadn't seen in 5 years on the same night was very weird.
Yeah, but if you asked me, I feel like the odds in that are pretty good, because... If you ask me, what's the Venn diagram of people who worked at Borders and people who are also fans of the Mountain Goats, There's more than one goat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I would imagine that the center of that Venn diagram is pretty large.
Well, that is true. I actually, when I went to go to the show, I texted another friend of mine who I used to work with at that same Borders and said, hey, I'm going to go see the Mountain Goats. And he said, cool, I'm also going to go see them when they come through my town in like a couple of months.
Yeah, see, that makes that tracks for me. That makes a lot of sense.
Also, one of the guy who I used to work with that I saw at that show was wearing a concert T-shirt of the recent Weird Al concert.
Oh man,
which is another,
what is it,
I feel like sort of perfect Venn diagram.
Yeah, that's, again, I think there's like a handful of acts and groups and stuff that, like, if you worked at Borders, like, the likelihood is pretty good that you also are into this other thing.
Yeah, dude, that Weird Al concert was his, like, weird small concert, self-indulgent, like, he's only doing, like, original songs and deep cuts off the albums for this tour.
Oh, yeah, and there's, like, no costumes and, like, no laser light show. It's, like, Weird Al Unplugged doing his own favorite songs.
Dude, I so wanted to go to that. Not only when he played in Cleveland did they play Albuquerque, they opened with Albuquerque. Wow. Like, that is the sort of show it was.
No, that would have been super, super cool. And, listen, man, I feel like Al's earned it. I feel like Weird Al's earned that one.
Oh, sure. Anyway, that was my Friday night. It was a lot of fun. Dave, what is the second star of the week?
Well, my Friday night and my Thursday night and my Saturday night actually were taken up with the play. We just did the play this past weekend, and it went really well, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. The kids crushed it.
That's awesome.
Which
I know there was a lot that went into that.
Yeah, man, boy howdy. So the show we did is Noises Off, and it's a monster of a show. But they did a really fantastic job. Unfortunately, and this is actually this is a real bummer for me, and I'm staying real chipper about it, but that's just my voice. But in my heart, know that this is kind of bumming me out. It was literally our worst attended show ever, for reasons that I cannot fathom. Like, I just don't understand why. Like, just like nobody came to see this show. We took a real bath on it. We're going to have to, like, do some fundraising.
Oh, that sucks, man.
It does. It super sucks.
Genuinely, it might have just been the weather. Like, it's still cold. Oh, no, actually, okay, here's the deal. It has been cold for ages. The only nice nights we've had in Cleveland since in, like, the last couple of months were Thursday and Friday night.
Yeah, maybe.
So it might just be that everyone
was
like, man, I could go to this play, or I could, like, stand outside for a couple of hours and just soak in warmth.
Saturday was gross again, and it definitely was the best attended show of the three, so maybe there's something to that. But now the show is over, and there's a month and a half of school left, but whenever the show ends, I just already feel like I'm on vacation. Because all I have to do is go to my actual job instead of... Because, I've been working 14-hour days this past week.
Oh, yeah,
and
man.
The weeks before that weren't that long, but they were very long. And so just when I don't have to do that anymore, it's kind of mind-blowing. And then actually, so our mom and dad are moving back from Sweden, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. And they're moving to Washington, D.C., and they were down there house hunting, and Beth, my wife, said, you're going to be gone all weekend. Like, you're just going to be at this, running this show basically all weekend. Why don't I just take the twins? Like, I'll go down and see mom and dad. I'll get out of the house. Like, we'll get to visit. It'll be great. And, you just do that. So I was like, yeah, cool. Sounds great. So not only have I've been running the show, but I've been sleeping. I've had 2 nights in a row of uninterrupted sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. But I am having a very weird experience, which is like I'm basically batching it for the weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just, it's just me. And I'm digging it. Like, definitely. Like, but it's nice to visit. Like, I wouldn't want to live here anymore. Like, it's very straight. Like, I'm enjoying the quiet, but it's also slightly disconcerting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm so unused to it at this point. But yeah, so the show is over. The kids did a fantastic job. There's no Like there's no, I don't have any jokes about
Yeah.
that. It's just really exciting.
Well, what you can do to combat that silence, Dave, is what I do when I'm batched at 24/7 is you just toss some headphones in and listen to a bunch of podcasts, and it's like someone is hanging out with you.
I did actually yesterday during the day. I kind of didn't have anything to do, and I did. I sat down and I played Hitman for like 4 hours, which I basically don't play video games anymore, and it was really nice. It was great.
Yeah.
So that was a cool thing. So anyways, Matt, what is our third star of the week?
Third star of the week, Dave, is that I also sat down for a few hours yesterday and was just playing a video game.
Well, that's less exciting for you, but okay, sure. Let's talk about that.
Hey, man, listen, you got to talk about yours. No, it's cool. I've recently bought the new Far Cry game, Far Cry 5.
Oh, I hear very good things about it.
Yeah, it is like, listen, the story in the Far Cry games are always like real wackadoo, and like this one is potentially like the worst of the most recent like stories in the games. But the actual gameplay of the games are super fun. And here is what I discovered, Dave. There is an alternate mode in this game. And I promise not to get too deep on this, because once I start talking about alternate modes of video games, I feel like there has got to be a percentage of our audience that is immediately tuning out. So just stick with me for a second. There is a version of this game within the game called like Far Cry Arcade.
Okay.
And what it is it's just like little mini maps you go and do. So, like, the gameplay of this game is super satisfying, but the story is kind of odd. So the arcade is just the gameplay with none of the story. And, like, apparently it's sort of like a Mario Maker thing. Like, players can go in and make their own maps. So
Okay.
what I have discovered is that there's essentially an infinite well of just like little mini Far Cry games that I can be playing, and I'm very excited about it, and a little
that sounds
worried
dangerous.
that it's just going to suck me in.
Yeah, that is a little bit concerning.
I need to pick up like a secondary hobby outside of this podcast to make sure that I'm not just throwing all of my time down that like one weird well. And when I say other hobbies aside from this podcast, I probably just mean other podcasts to do, but that is something I will work on a little later. Dave, what is our fourth star of the week?
So our first star of the week it's a little bit of a bummer, but it's kind of funny. So my garage door broke.
That is a bummer.
Right? Yeah, it is. And so what happened is that there's like a spring cable that helps you lift the door, because garage doors are very heavy, right?
Yes.
And it snapped.
Aha.
But when it snapped, my garage door was kind of janky anyways. And so when it snapped, the garage door itself kind of literally came off the rails, like the track that guides it, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So I can't get it open. Like, I can only sort of wedge it up a little bit, enough to kind of like get my head under and see what had happened. But I can't actually open my garage at all. And there's no other. It's a really old garage. It's original to the house, so there's not like
a side door to it.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. So I could potentially like get it. At least I can't fix the spring. Like, that's beyond my expertise, and I need a new one anyways. I could potentially get it back on the rails in order to open the garage, but in order to do that, I have to get into the garage, because that's where all my tools are. So like, if I could get into the garage, I could fix it, but I can't get into the garage, so I can't fix it. So I gotta have a guy out to fix it. I guess he's just gonna have to like axe his way through the existing garage door, because like there's no other way in. You can't. He's just gonna have to dismantle this thing. So
I guess maybe get like a hydraulic jack or something and put it under the door. But I guess that wouldn't work because it's not on the track.
That's the thing, is it? And it's like wedged now. So like, I got my car jack out and tried to push it up, and all that happened is that the door itself started to splinter. Like, the wood of the door is weaker than all the other component parts. So I mean, like, if I had if I could get at my circular saw, I could just like cut a hole in the door, but it's in the garage. Yeah, so when I guess the guy comes out, he's just going to have to cut a hole in the door? I don't know. I'm not a garage door repair guy.
I mean, clearly.
But-
otherwise, this was
Yeah,
already been
clearly,
taken care of.
So, anyways, that's the saga of my garage door.
All right, well, keep us
further
updated.
updates as events warrant, I guess. So, Matt, what is our fifth star of the week?
Dave, fifth star of the week is that there is going to be a special Super Sentai movie that they're putting out.
Oh, I was reading about this.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a reunion movie because it's not actually people who were on the same shows together, but it is like a it's a bunch of people from previous shows. So it is the Pink Ranger from Magic Ranger, the Blue Ranger from Hurricaneger, and the Yellow Ranger from Deca Ranger. And those were all series from like the early 2000s, or like 2002 to 2005-ish, somewhere in there, right? I looked up the dates before this, but I had them on my phone, and I put my phone away, and now I don't know what the dates are. But it's in that range, which does not seem like a very long time ago until you remember that 2003 was 15 years ago.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's a really long time ago.
Yeah, man, Time's Winged Chariot and all that. So, what this movie is, it is these three women, who now are like, adult in their 30s with children, who like get sucked back into doing Super Sentai stuff. Like they have to like team up to fight somebody to maybe to save their kids. I don't know. I tried to watch the trailer, but it was all in Japanese and there were no subtitles.
Well, that would make it difficult.
But I thought it was such a cool idea to like get these people who, like they're not. When people do these shows originally, they're all fairly young. So there's a pretty long tail on how many times they can like come back and do this sort of stuff before they age out of it.
Yeah, right. Because everybody is in between like 18 and 19, and like I would say at max like 24, 25.
Yeah, so if you have them come back like 10 years later, they're still like, in their sort of fitness prime and can still do all the kung fu stuff. And yeah, I'm really excited to watch this thing. I imagine I'll probably have to find like a fan sub of it somewhere.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. No, I do. This is super amazing. I love the theme that it's just moms, like Mom Ranger. That's incredible. And also, I am deeply in love with the retired badass trope. Right? Like, if you were super amazing and then you retired, it's like, and they pull you out for one last job. Like, I love that. I'm a real sucker for it.
Getting the band back together and one last job, especially when those two things, like, line up together, are some of my favorite things.
I'm down all the time. Anyways, Matt, that's, so if anybody knows actually when it's...
Yeah, when it's happening and how I can watch it.
Yeah, that's really what I want to know, is how I can watch this thing. So, I don't know, man. Hook us up. Let us know.
Yes, but speaking of watching Sentai, Dave, let's go do it. Let's watch episode 21, The Storm Calling Kendama, and we will be right back. Okay, welcome back. So, we have just finished watching episode 21, The Storm Calling Kendama. And Dave, I love this TV show that we watch.
Dude,
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need to take a minute to really fully comprehend it all?
Dude, I did. I took a minute, Matt. I'm still working my way through this episode. Like, in my heart. Okay. So first thing, you need to know this. There's a piece of prerequisite information about this episode, and that piece of information is what a kendama is.
Yes.
And a kendama is the Japanese. It's like a ball and cup game.
Yeah.
Like there's a handle, and but it's like next level ball and cup game. So here's the deal.
Yeah. There's still just the one ball, but there are multiple cups.
Yeah, there's like a big cup on one side, and then you flip it over, and there's a smaller cup, and then the bottom of the handle itself is a cup, and then on the top of it, there's like a spike, and the ball has a hole in it. So you can sort of flip it between the two different cups. You can catch it on the spike. You can catch it on the handle of the cup, or the handle of the thing, and it's a toy from back when before people knew what fun was. I don't know.
I mean, listen, there's more to that than there are to, like, fidget spinners.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, also he said as a dude who spent like many, many, many hours learning how to juggle. So, I don't know if I have a whole lot of place to talk. But that is what a kendama is. And also, Matt, in case you were curious, if you go on the internet and you search for kendama, there are people who have just taken kendama playing to just like a whole next level.
Oh yeah,
and have turned it into like sort of a form of juggling, I guess, in a way that is both deeply impressive and to me just very confusing. Because listen, again, I learned how to juggle, so live your life how you want to live it. I just would not look at a kendama and be like, well, that's what I'm dedicating my life to.
Now, Dave, did any of those people spend 7 years and 500 million yen perfecting their art?
No, they didn't. They did
well,
not.
That is where they fall short of some of the people in this episode.
Yeah. Okay, so here is this episode starts with a scene that has nothing to do with the rest of the episode.
Well, okay, it kind of does.
Well, okay, yeah, it does a little bit. It starts off at a quarry, which, yeah, sure. But we hear some very energetic, like, J-pop music playing. We don't see anything at first. We just hear this music. And then we get maybe the greatest scene of Sentai that I've ever witnessed, Matt.
Yeah, so we see one of the giant robots, Red Dancer. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. He's called
man,
Red Puncher, usually. But now, in my notes, he is only Red Dancer.
Yeah, because Red Dancer and Orobo are doing aerobics along with being piloted by the male rangers, and Momo and Juri are like up on a cliff leading Orobo and Red Dancer in an aerobics routine.
Yes.
In order to rehab them?
Yeah, it's physical therapy, Dave, because O-Ranger Robo got destroyed a couple of weeks ago and is still, like, not entirely repaired. So they were putting O-Ranger Robo through his paces in this, like, aerobics thing. And I want to be clear about something. A little later, we will see more aerobics, like a quick scene of it while people are in their O-Ranger jumpsuits. Juri and Momo are not in their O-Ranger jumpsuits. They're not. No, they are in, like, 80s, 90s, like workout leotards.
Yes.
With like a crop top shirt. It is, listen, I don't want to get too much into it. It's a good look. It's a very good look.
And then so Momo says, she like gives a big thumbs up and she's like, oh, Robo, like, get well soon. Momo, robots don't heal. They're not Matt's car. That's not a thing that happens with machine. You just fix them. You fix them and then they're better. Now, okay, there is like one moment of sanity in all of this, which is, I think it's Shohei. Shohei and Yuji are piloting Orobo.
Yeah.
And they're like calling out some diagnostic stuff while this is happening. It's like, oh, the right, rotator ring still seems like blah, blah, blah. So there is some sense to it. Again, with the exception that everybody else seems to be treating Orobo as though it is a being that will heal on its own and needs physical therapy rather than like a robot and you just have to replace the parts.
Anyway, it's extremely excellent.
Yeah.
We closed this scene out with just the two robots dancing in the quarry until eventually Orobo like loses his balance and falls over.
Yes. We do get a scene where the robots are like shimmying on each other.
Oh, there's a good bit of shimmying.
Yeah. Well, like they're dancing together. I don't know. You just like, even if you don't watch this show, like, just find this scene. Like,
I feel like this is the sort of
your
thing
time
that you might have already seen as a GIF somewhere.
Yeah, that would be really cool if you had. So we go from there to the moon, actually. And what we find out is that the robots, or the Baranoi Empire, rather, I mean, they are robots, but they know pretty accurately how well O-Robo is doing, because Empress Hysteria says that O-Robo is 70% recovered. Like he's almost ready to go.
And again, they do say recovered and not repaired.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do.
And then she goes into this whole thing that maybe you understood it better than I did. She's like, yeah, they've almost fixed it, but we're going to go defeat them because they're, like, when you're almost better is when you're most vulnerable or something?
Yeah, okay, here's the only thing in that maybe makes a little bit of sense to me, is that, like, you're almost better, and so you think, like, in your head, you're like, oh, I must be fine, and then you go to do the things you would normally do, and you're not actually fine, and you kind of scream. It's like when you're almost better, and you go back to, like, you're like, oh, I'm fine, because I felt great yesterday sitting on the couch in my pajamas watching TV, and then you go to work, and you realize that the only reason you were feeling okay is because all you did was sit on the couch in your pajamas and watch TV, and then you actually have to do things, you're like, oh, no, this is still terrible. Maybe that's what she's talking about, but for giant robots?
Yeah. In any case, she has some sort of plan to destroy them.
Yeah, we don't know what yet. So we go back down to Earth, and Goro and Momo and Juri are doing aerobics just in a park area.
Well, they're in a park next
but
to
there's
a train.
Yeah.
On the train, on the train are Yuji and Shohei, and they are sulking while eating ice cream cones.
Yeah, which is an amazing... Oh, Goro does say, he's like, man, this is way easier in Red Puncher. Which, yeah, dude. Yeah, of course it is. Because you're not actually doing anything. You're just piloting the robot, dummy. So anyways... And so what we find out is that Shohei and Yuji are kind of jealous of Goro because he has his own robot. Like, everybody else has to pilot O-Robo, and O-Red has Red Puncher.
Yeah.
And Yuji specifically is like, man, if I had my own robot, like, that would be the best. And, like, I would totally rule at it.
He was just, like, complaining while, like, eating ice cream. It's... Man, I really feel Yuji in this episode. Like, a lot.
Yeah, no, like, it does make sense. And also, I think it's not helped by the fact that of the two, I think Red Puncher is infinitely cooler than O-Robo.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, like, Yuji does have his own giant robot. It's a cool Sphinx robot.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if anybody should be complaining about this, it is Juri and Momo, because not only do they have to be the ones in charge of the physical therapy for the giant robots, but their personal robots are the ones that just get dragged around on chains.
Yeah, for real.
Like, at least Yuji could, like, hop in his robot and take it out for a spin.
Well, I mean, the blaster, I can never remember their names. They do have, like, wheels. They think they can probably move around on some level on their own. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe those wheels are literally only for
getting dragged.
For, like, being dragged, and all of their power is dedicated to those giant blaster cannons. Which actually, I'm actually sort of into that more. Like, no, man, there was no more energy for, like, an engine. It's just all blasters.
It's all
You're
laser.
100% blaster power. Okay. So, a kid runs in with a friend, and let me just say something really quickly. I find it, like, low-key weird how many young friends the O-Rangers seem to have. Like, every episode, some kid that we've never seen before runs up and is like, oh, O-Rangers, like, blah, 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 blah. And they're just like, oh, hey, I think this kid's name is Mikio. I didn't write it down. It's like, oh, hey, Mikio, how are you? What's up?
You're right, it is Mikio.
Yeah, nice. Like, oh, hey, how are you, kid that we apparently know?
Yeah, they don't have any other friends their own age. Like, they know each other and children.
It's a little bit strange.
What I have to assume is that, like, the O-Rangers, as part of their, like, there's, like, a community outreach aspect to their job where they spend a couple hours a week working in, like, a local youth center.
No, I mean, that would make sense.
Because
But
otherwise,
like we never see it.
I mean, listen. What really made no sense was how the Kaku Rangers always seemed to know children, because they didn't even stay in the same town for too long. They would just like drive through on their magical like cat bus crepe truck and go from town to town, and always seem to know at least 3 children.
Yeah, dude, if I were a parent, I would not let my kids hang out. Like, the O Rangers make sense. I would not let my children hang out with the Kaku Rangers. Like,
No.
they're just vagabond crepe merchants. Weird. So anyways, this kid runs up, and he says, O Rangers, this is my friend from the country.
Yeah, her name
And
is Tomoko, and she is from a
thank you.
town called Yumena, or Yumena,
Okay.
or whatever.
And we find out is that it's kind of like out, like it is a sizable town, but it's like really far away from anything else. And they are a like lumber town. That is their, like that kind of is the town industry, and that's sort of like what they're built around. And they say, we have built this robot, and we need someone from O Ranger to come pilot this robot, because we built a giant robot, but we're all like carpenters and lumberjacks, like we don't know how to pilot the thing.
Right, like we need a giant robot pilot, and you 5 are the only ones in the world who do that.
Yeah. Which, okay, so just real quickly, Yuji's like, what? Awesome, like I'm down, like I'll go do this thing.
Because he desperately wants his own robot.
Yeah, so they go to the town, and here's what we find out is, again, they are like a lumber town, but the other thing that they do is they're really famous for like wooden toys. And one of the wooden toys for which they are famous is the kendama. Like they make kendamas, and like everybody knows it, okay? Mm-hmm. So they have spent, who appears to, like this guy who appears to be the mayor of the town is sort of like leading them through this.
And you can tell
And-
he's the mayor because he has a mustache and a bow tie.
Yeah, and his son has been like the lead engineer on this project. And they, as a town, have spent 7 years
And 500 million yen.
building a giant wooden robot.
All
And the
wood.
reasoning, yeah. And so what they say is like, we have built this robot to revitalize our town.
Listen, man.
I don't know how
Sometimes
on
you're
God's
in,
green earth.
you're in a slump. You really need to put yourself out there. Sometimes you build a new park. You know, sometimes you do a sort of a massive downtown renovation. You know, you fix up some of the old buildings. You sort of rehab some warehouses. Maybe turn them into some residential areas. You know, there's different things you can do. Try to bring in, like a nice nightlife or restaurant scene. And then sometimes you build a giant wooden robot. And I think
Dude,
these all work. These are all good plans.
This giant robot is like it's the Batman of giant robots.
How do you mean?
Okay, oh, sorry. So there's this thing about Batman. And like, listen, I love Batman. But like, if you do a cost breakdown analysis of like how much it costs Batman to be Batman, and then you think about how much good Batman could have done by just spending all of that money on like social programs in Gotham, the entire conceit of Batman completely falls apart. Like, Batman is a useless idiot.
Okay,
like
well,
he should have just spent all that money building like boys and girls clubs.
He does that too.
Well, okay, that's a good point. And so
listen, it's not like Bruce Wayne is going to run out of money. He spends infinite money on social programs, and then he spends the other half of his infinite money on being Batman. And listen, you can't stop Scarecrow with the Boys and Girls Club, Dave.
So there's for 500 million. That's I just looked it up. In as of today, that's $4.6 million building a giant robot. And here's the most incredible thing: over the course of 7 years, and $4.6 million or 500 million yen, however you want to look at it, because remember, the O-Rangers are less than a year old. They have only existed for 21 weeks as of this week, as far as we can tell, okay? So at no point over the course of the last 7 years or expenditure of enormous amount of money did they ever think to train someone to pilot this robot. This is the Brunelleschi's Dome of giant robot. It is the Batman and the Brunelleschi's Dome of giant robots, which if you just got that joke, let me just say, I felt really good about myself for making it, and you can feel good about yourself for laughing at it, because that was some erudite humor, friends.
Let me tell you what, Dave. I feel great.
Yeah, so Matt, can you describe this robot for us? Because it's called Kendama Robo.
Mm-hmm. And
please, just if you would.
Okay, so it is built along the idea that it is kind of shaped like a kendama, right? Like,
I mean, it's pretty like they nailed it pretty hard, man.
Yeah, like it's got big cups as either of its shoulders. Its head is a big spike. Yeah. Its feet sort of like flare out together, so you can kind of imagine that if it were upside down, he could put its feet together to form another cup.
Yeah.
It's got a big, like, kendama ball on a rope hanging from one hand. And on his other hand is, like, another sort of mini kendama. I mean, it's also a giant kendama, but it is not as giant as the robot
It's also
itself.
very, very large. Yes.
So it's like the size of a car instead of the size of a building.
Right. And so Yuji looks at this and is instantly enamored of it. He thinks this is the greatest thing ever, which I think he's blinded a little bit by his desire for his own giant robot. Mm-hmm. Because, like, if you compare Kendama Robo to Red Puncher, like, there's a vast gulf of difference, is all I'm saying. And so, well, because Red Puncher was designed by, like, the world's greatest genius and expert on Choriki energy, and Kendama Robo was designed by, as far as I can tell, a lumberjack?
Yeah, it was...
Which, like, listen... Being a lumberjack is a very difficult job, but, like, it doesn't intersect a lot with giant robot design.
Sure. I mean, the guy who is... And he's here in this scene, like the mayor's son, who was, like, the lead engineer on this thing. He's here in this scene. He is probably 25, and he definitely has spent 7 years working on this thing, which means that when he started putting this thing together... He was like, what, 18, 19 years old, just like doodling in a notebook?
So Yuji looks at Kendama Robo and he says, awesome. He like jumps up on the shoulder, henshins, for reasons I don't understand, and just hops in the control panel. And the control panel for Kendama Robo is 5 giant levers,
couple of buttons,
and wood paneling, and a big window.
It looks amazing. It looks like a luxury 70s lounge instead of a robot cockpit.
Yeah, so he starts trying to pilot Kendama Robo, and, like, with zero instruction. Like, he doesn't sit down with anybody and say, like, okay, like, run me through the paces, like, what, how does this whole thing work? He just jumps up, and I guess assumes that, like, by virtue of piloting other giant robots... and being an O-Ranger, that he will just intuitively understand how to pilot this giant robot, despite the fact that visually, the controls are completely different from O-Robo.
Right, and plus the thing he is trying to do is to catch the ball on the kendama, right?
Yeah, he's not actually trying to get he's just playing giant kendama with Kendama Robo.
Yeah, but the problem is that Yuji, as we discover... is not good at the kendama. So, like, what they really need, and the problem they've been running into as a town, is they need someone who is A, good at kendama, and B, good at giant robots.
Yeah.
And, like, that is not a Venn diagram that really crosses over much.
Yeah, so he tries to pilot it a little bit, and it's going very poorly. And he says, oh, maybe I do need some practice. And what they mean by practice... we find out, because we flip to the next scene, what they mean by practice is not practice piloting the giant robot.
Well, sure, he already knows how to pilot giant robots, obviously.
What they mean is that Yuji needs to practice with a human-sized kendama in his human hand. Mm-hmm. And so we just see him with a group of small boys... who were all very good at kendama, like, much better than I would be. And Yuji is trying to play with this kendama, and they're like, no, Yuji, like, you're screwing it up. Like, you're terrible at this. You need to relax your... One of them tells him to relax his shoulders. I don't know why that would matter. But again, I'm not a kendama expert, so what do I know? How does this translate?
I don't.
Why?
I mean, listen, you've gotta walk before you can run, Dave. You gotta mess around with the small wooden toy before you can really master the giant wooden toy that is Kendama Robo.
Man, okay. So he's terrible at both piloting Kendama Robo and at human-sized Kendama. We flip over then to Empress Hysteria. And she has come up with what I think is a pretty great plan.
Yeah. And this is not on the moon, by the way. She has come down to this town at night.
Oh, yeah. So here's what they've done, is that the Baranoia Empire has created Bara Kendama, which is a dead ringer for Kendama Robo. Mm-hmm. And they pull a switch. They replace Kendama Robo with Bara Kendama as like a Trojan horse sort of trap thing. It's like a reverse Trojan horse, I guess.
So the next morning, everyone shows up for Kendama Robo practice, I guess.
Yup.
And Yuji is about to like hop back up into the control panel, and the rest of the O-Rangers show up, and they're like, "Hey, Yuji.
Hey, Huge? Hey, bud?
You know how you're an O-Ranger, and O-Ranger Robo is still kinda on the fritz? We definitely need you to help rebuild our damaged world-saving robot." And Yuji's like, "Listen,
says,
okay, give me like one more day, because I've like half a day. I've almost got this thing. I practiced with the Kendama all night."
And that will allow me to pilot this giant Kendama robot, which could be defeated by, man, I don't know, fire?
I guess. And Goro is about to like insist that he come back to the quarry, but the children are like, "Listen, like this really means a lot to the town. If we can get this thing up and running, then maybe like that will, I don't know, maybe it's going to be like a tourism attraction."
Know, because the town seems to be doing fine.
Well, it
as
does
evidenced
now.
by the fact that they had 500 million yen to drop on building a stupid robot. Like, you can't be doing that poorly, is what I'm saying. But they say, like, "Hey, please," and then the mayor is there and the son is there, and they're like, "Please let him do this thing."
You know, maybe when they say revitalize the town, they don't mean that, like, the town is in an economic slump. Maybe they just mean, like, this place is boring. All we have is, like, lumber mills. Like, we need some excitement around here.
These stupid Kendama toys. So, like, the people will be so happy if he does it. Okay. So he does it. He does it. He kind of flips the ball up and he catches it on the head spike. And Yuji is very excited. And the engineer's son utters the line, "The youth I gave up to build Kendama Robo wasn't wasted." So
yeah, I also wrote that in my notes. Like, he really needed this.
So then they all do. The mayor is so excited. He says, "Join us for the Kendama dance," which doesn't seem to have anything to do with the physical structure of a kendama or like the movements you would make when playing a kendama. It is just like a little sort of like hands up.
Yeah, he has put together like a little jingle and celebratory dance far in advance of this thing being completed, so he had it in his back pocket, ready for when someone finally did it.
He was ready for this. So they're all there, and he gets the Rangers to join him, and so they're dancing in a circle, doing the kendama dance. Except Goro.
Yeah, Goro
looks up at this robot, and he says, "Dude,"
he's got a thought.
He says, "This does not make sense." He says, "I know from giant robots," and let me just say, because he hops on his communicator with Yuji, and he says, "Listen, man, that robot moves too smoothly. Like, it's too advanced for wood." He says, "You cannot make a giant robot that good entirely out of lumber. Like, it's not possible. Something is going on. I don't know what, but, like, you need to get out of there, and we need to figure out what's happening. Because, like, something is fishy here."
Yeah. Yuji does not want to hear any of this, because now he has his own new cool robot. And so he doesn't get down, and then all of a sudden, Goro is 100% right.
Yeah, that's it. So Empress Hysteria just appears and she says, Barakandama, activate. If she doesn't say it like that, but Barakandama activates, and it's rad, because what happens is, like, these bands shoot out of the control chair and trap Yuji in it. Now, I'm not sure. At first, I thought that maybe they were sort of using Yuji as a Choriki energy battery, and that was kind of what was powering Barakandama. I'm not sure. But he is trapped in there.
I think he's just trapped in there to, like, hold him hostage.
Okay, yeah. It makes sense, too. So,
and his face also changes. Like, his head transforms into a much more evil-looking robot head.
Oh, yeah, and his arm changes, like, his Kendama arm changes colors a little bit. So it's clear that, it is now a evil monster version of Barakandama. Which, for some reason, nobody in the town notices. Like, they're going to say later, like, oh, everybody, the Empress Hysteria is, like, mocking the Rangers, and because, predictably, Barakandama just starts, like, wrecking the entire town. And everyone's like, Kendama Robo, like, why are you doing this? Yuji, what's happening? Why are you destroying our town? I thought you were going to help. And Empress Hysteria is like, see? They can't tell the difference, which is bizarre, because they very definitely look different.
Yeah. Now, as Yuji is trapped in Barakandama, and Barakandama is just destroying the town, the other Rangers are all distracted by a bunch of Bara fighters showing up, and they have a cool fight sort of in and around some cars.
Yeah, there is some really cool choreography where Juri is, like, running along 3 different cars in sequence, not moving cars, but, like, she's running, and it's a multi-level fight, and she's, like, doing some flips off of them and stuff. It's pretty rad.
I do wonder, because, like, in this show, I feel like we get a lot of interesting camera work, and we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
But, like, more interesting camera work in this show than we do in other ones. And I wonder to what extent that was jarring while watching Power Rangers Zeo.
Huh.
Because, like,
yeah, I don't know.
The Zeo, like, the Power Rangers camera work is not usually that exciting, if I recall.
It's not. That's...
And so,
no, it's not.
The idea of, like, switching, cutting from, Rocky doing something to, like, flipping over to the Sentai footage and them just doing these, like, weird camera tricks and all that sort of stuff must have been kind of weird.
Yeah. So it, we get a fight. We do find that Kendama Robo is attacking, or I'm sorry, Barakandama is attacking, and he shoots energy blasts out of his eyes, but they animate little energy spheres in the blasts, so he's, like, shooting energy balls because he's a Kendama robot, which I thought was a fun little touch.
Yep.
So, the mayor is like, no, the robot we built to revitalize our town is going crazy. And again, like, no, it's very definitely not the same robot. It looks very different. You spent 7 years looking at this dumb thing. I feel like you would notice, but whatever. So, the Rangers henshin, they continue to fight, and they, like, it's not going well, because obviously Barakandama is already giant. So, Robo is not ready to go yet. And Goro calls for Red Puncher.
Yes.
And we get, again, just like the greatest delivery sequence for any giant robot in any Sentai series we've seen.
Where he's just literally shot out of a cannon that's mounted into the side of a mountain.
Oh my gosh, I'm so into it. Yeah, so Red Puncher arrives, and Goro gets in, and they start fighting.
Yeah, and the problem here is that, like, even though Goro is fighting against Barakandama, he can't really fight because Yuji's in there. So, like, if he just blows the thing up, he's going to kill Yuji.
Yes. So
and Yuji, by the way, is like, no, don't worry about it. Like, if you have to accidentally kill me with this thing, like, you do what you got to do, save the town.
Right.
But they're not.
But they're like, no, we're not going to do that, obviously. So the other Rangers, Shohei, Juri, and Momo say, well, we can't do anything right now because Orobo is still not repaired. And then one of them, I forget which one, says, wait a minute, the real Kendama Robo has to be around here someplace. Like, they couldn't have destroyed it that quickly. Which I don't, again, that's definitely not true. It's made out of wood. You could have just set it on fire. That would have been the end of it, but whatever. So they run around and they go and they find the real Kendama Robo, which is sort of like sitting in a quarry someplace.
Yeah.
They radio back. They say, Goro, like, basically, lure Bara Kendama over here. We will pilot Kendama Robo, and then we'll sort of be able to kind of double team, and we'll figure this out from there.
Yeah, so Goro lures Bara Kendama over to the quarry, where sort of out of nowhere, the Shohei is now piloting Kendama Robo and uses the sort of rope ball thing to like snake around Bara Kendama's. Man, there's a lot of similar names in
Kendama
this.
going
and
on
it's very
here.
difficult
Yeah,
to keep it all straight. So Shohei uses Kendama Robo to trip and like essentially like a giant bolo, like just trip Bara Kendama, and now he's on the ground. Red Puncher comes around and sort of gets him in like a grappling hold from behind.
Yeah, it's a cool moment.
Reaches down and like punches through the cockpit to where Yuji is being trapped. Like he doesn't like punch all the way in to like crush Yuji to death, obviously. He just like smashes open like the big glass like windshield.
Front, yeah. So then Momo and Juri are able to kind of get in, get Yuji free, and then Red Puncher is sort of free to really let Bara Kendama have it because Yuji is no longer a prisoner.
Yeah, it is. Now it is punch time.
Yeah, and he punches him very, very well. There's a lot of punches. Many punches, and he does that like cool piston punch that kind of reminds me of Big O. It's very neat.
Oh man, Big O.
I know, right? Such a good show. So that like once Yuji is no longer a prisoner, Bara Kendama does not have a whole lot to offer in this fight. Like it's over pretty quickly.
Yeah. Red Puncher uses his finishing technique called Magna Puncher. I think I called that Mega Puncher before, but I was mistaken.
Yeah, where he sort of like jumps up and spins and turns into a fireball. There's a lot of giant robots turning into fireballs in Sentai shows, I've discovered.
Well, the thing about giant robots turning into fireballs is that it's very good and exciting.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So just keep doing that. Like, sorry, let me be clear. I'm not complaining about it. It's cool every time it happens. So that's the end of Bara Kendama. He just he explodes. And great, they've saved the day. Hooray!
And then it's the end of the episode, and like Kendama Robo is still sort of in good working order, and so everyone says like, okay, well, we're counting on the O-Rangers rather say to the townspeople like, we're counting on you and Kendama Robo to like really, do your best in some like, vague, unspecified way.
Yes.
I think the engineer, like the head engineer, the mayor's son, says that he is going to train with the Robo so that he can pilot it.
Yeah, he does. Which, man, you really should have just been doing that the whole time, but whatever.
Dude, how much would I love, the answer is a lot. How much would I love a show where just like every town in Japan was like building their own giant robots to help fight alongside the Super Sentai team?
Sort of like a Gundam Z, but only in Japan.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be very into that. So, so then Yuji says, I've learned the value of teamwork, by which I think he means I've learned the value of not being jealous of the other members of my team, and that, like, maybe I don't need to have my own special giant robot just because I want it, even if it wouldn't be particularly valuable. Which is not exactly the same thing as teamwork. Yuji?
Yeah.
Feels slightly disingenuous.
Especially because, like, the way that they... I guess they did use teamwork to, like, get Yuji out of Bara Kendama. With all of them sort of working together like that. But teamwork is not what destroyed Bara Kendama. Goro solo piloting the Red Puncher is what destroyed Bara Kendama.
Yeah, so that's not really...
So he learned the value of him doing teamwork and Goro punching everything. Which is not quite the same, but still very good.
It's a very different lesson. So that's the end of that episode, Matt, but it's not the end of our episode.
No, Dave, now it is time for us to determine where Bara Kendama lands in the Creature Royale.
So, okay, so I like Bara Kendama really because of the plan that he's part of.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing he's got going for him. And the also, I will give Bara Kendama I don't know if he should get these points because he wasn't designed by the Baranoia Empire. Like, they were imitating human design.
But it's still a good look.
But, yeah, well, it's a very... Bara Kendama is very on message. He's like, I am a Kendama monster, and I am myself a giant Kendama with a giant Kendama arm.
Yeah, and I shoot like energy kendama balls out of my eyes.
Yeah, like he has like a look, and he's very committed to that, and so I give him points there. As a monster, he's not terribly, he's not terribly effective. But he's visually appealing. I think he's got a neat look, and I like the plan that he's part of.
Okay, so top half or bottom half of the list, which is to say above or below the jewelry priestesses from Die Ranger, who are still like smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, just right in the middle. Well, I am tempted to say top half, but
well, okay, because just above the ring priestess is Pachinko Master.
Yes.
And I think that if he's going to go on the top half of the list, he can't go too high on it because I think that Pachinko Master... Actually, I like Pachinko Master a lot more because I just remembered Pachinko Master's whole deal about how he didn't actually want to fight anybody. He just wanted to play Pachinko.
He just wanted to play Pachinko. Yeah, so I was saying top half, but I'm looking at the so it's the ring priestesses, and then just underneath that is the Ghost Lantern. Like that crazy with like it had like the 5 ghosts.
And then we got the Copy
Empress. And then Bara Magma and Tsunekake. Okay, yeah. So Tsunekake Baba is a hard one to beat. Like magical sand-filled breasts that allow her to do like evil magic. That's I mean, you've got to have some juice to beat that.
Yeah.
So I actually, as I'm saying that, I actually don't think that I would put Bara Kendama in that top half. So I would say, because just beneath Tsunekake Baba is Bakaneko, the cat lady who had her own hotel, Bara Devil, the traffic light dimension, then Kappa, Rokurokubi, and Bara Vanish. Okay, I like him better than Bara Vanish. I can definitely say that.
Okay, now Bara Vanish, if you will recall, did have the extra ability of using technology to read a child's memories and project it like a hologram.
Ooh, yes, but he also was not a giant kendama.
Well,
like, Bara Kendama didn't
true.
have as cool of a, or I'm sorry, Bara Vanish didn't have as cool of a look, and I think Bara Kendama's look is really pushing him up over the edge for me.
Okay, and really, it's that wood paneled cockpit that does it.
That's really sealing the deal as far as I'm concerned. So I would say above Bara Vanish,
below Kappa and Rokurokubi.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Kappa and Rokurokubi just had such a loving relationship that I feel bad, knocking them too far down. So that is going to put Bara Kendama in at the new spot 74.
Okay, and that finally is going to do it for another episode of For Your Eyes, O Ranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. If you want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you find the show, because, as we understand it, that helps other people find the show. Retrograde Orbit Radio produces the show, and to find any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do that all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.